Good afternoon, everybody. Turn that down just a notch. There we go. How are you all doing on this Monday? It's still Monday. What is it? 3 o'clock. So it's no longer Monday. It's Tuesday already in the Philippines in the middle of the night. So I hope you all are having a wonderful, well, actually, no, it's not even, it's almost early morning over there now, isn't it? It's crazy. The time zones. I can't wait till we're a little bit closer with this daylight savings thing gets better. So we are going to talk about stress today. And honestly, truthfully, like with the gut health one, I was encouraging everybody to watch the gut health video. I encourage you all to watch this video on stress because we all have stress in our life. And like I mentioned in the comments here, you can look at one person, they go through this, everybody goes through maybe the same stressful situation, and yet one person gets through it like no big deal. The next person has huge emotional effects from it, and the next person ends up very physically ill. Why do we all react differently to stress, and what are some ways that we can manage our stress better? Oils that can help us, supplements that can help us, and some different tips to being able to manage the stress we all have in our daily life. So before we get started, I'm going to apply one of my favorite oils, and that's Believe. Believe is a very, very calming oil, very grounding, just very peaceful. It's like walking in the woods, and yet it has I can't talk straight today, ylang ylang in it. So it actually helps to also balance our emotions. So this is a great one that I am actually even diffusing right now, and just very peaceful. So if you have Believe at home, get your Believe out while you watch this. And we're going to get started. Okay. So first, we're going to talk about what stress does to our body. We're going to talk about what it does to our gut, and then why we should even care about removing the impacts of stress on us because of, we'll talk about it. I'm going to get ahead of myself here. So first, what does stress do to our gut? So the Center for Disease Control here in America, they estimate that up to 70% of doctors' visits are related to stress in our lives. That's insane. I mean, 70% of doctor visits are related to stress. When we're under stress, the effects on our gut is that it increases our intestinal permeability. So what that means is leaky gut, and we may have heard of leaky gut before. But basically what happens is those junctions of our cells in our gut wall are super tight. But what stress will do will actually start to loosen those. So half-digested food starts to escape into our body, which we don't want to have happen. In the gut wall is our immune system. So as the food hits that, the immune system doesn't recognize it as, hang on, my kids are really loud upstairs. They don't recognize that as normal. So we can start to have food reactions, food intolerances, allergies. But worse, as those particles and all of this is going on, the cascade of our immune system response, all of this is going into our body, it can cause chronic long-term inflammation. And inflammation in our body is overall horrible for our health. So brain fog is another thing because it also will affect our brain. It can cause an imbalance of gut bacteria. So stress actually kills the good bacteria in our gut, which again, the good bacteria talk to the immune system. And so we're going to have increased problems with our immune system regulation. It can lead to irritable bowel diseases like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. Those are very stress related. Peptic ulcers, acid reflux, not absorbing our nutrients correctly. So even though we're eating our food, we're not going to get the nutrition from it when our gut is stressed out. There's actually 4 times less blood flow to our gut when we're stressed out. That's why we get that cramping sensation, and our gut is very affected when it comes to stress. We actually decrease how many enzymes we put out to help us to digest our food, to break down the food, to be able to absorb the nutrients. 20,000-fold less enzymes in our body when we're under stress. This can lead to depression. It can lead to increased anxiety. It becomes a vicious cycle. So we have this cascade starting in our gut, but it can lead to emotional issues as well. So if you have a lot of the gut issues from stress, go back and watch Class 1 and Class 2 about how to change your diet and to work on oils and supplements specifically for your gut health. Overall, what stress can do to our body is we can have headaches, we can have muscle pain, we have sleep problems, we have fatigue. Our blood pressure goes up. We can have heart disease directly related to stress, the stress on our heart, but also this inflammation that we have going on in our body. It can lead to obesity. It can lead to type 2 diabetes. It also contributes to inflammation in other diseases. So diseases like multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, kidney problems, allergies, fibromyalgia, different skin conditions, and on and on and on. That's why so many conditions tend to flare up when we're under stress. And it's because of this entire reaction in our body to stress that can affect other parts of our body. But the key here is that inflammation. Stress causes inflammation in the body. So managing stress response is the key. We cannot avoid stress entirely, right? I mean, it'd be awesome if we could live in a bubble and never got stressed out. That would be great. How we manage it is the key, our response to that. We talked about dietary approaches. Again, go back and watch the first video if you're looking at different dietary approaches to helping stress. What we're going to talk about today is how to decrease stress in our life, how to decrease its effects on our body. And we're going to go through several tips, and then we're also going to talk about oils and supplements. So first of all, number one, exercise. And so exercise, you're thinking, okay, like that puts stress on my body or it stresses me out. So we think, well, exercise, why would we want to exercise to decrease stress? So I'm not talking about going to the gym if you haven't been to the gym in 20 years and like bench pressing and, getting on the treadmill for 6 hours up the incline, whatever. Even taking a walk out in nature helps. And something very simple. Find a form of exercise that you really enjoy, whether it's bicycling or swimming, going for a walk. It doesn't have to be hard on your body. It can be very, very gentle. But they find that exercise decreases our stress hormones. It decreases cortisol in our body. It releases endorphins, which help improve our mood. They actually help with pain. It's so that we don't have the same pain response or painkillers. We think of that runner's high, right? The endorphins are flooding through their body. So exercise is really, really helpful that way. It improves sleep, which can be affected by stress. So just getting out for a little bit of exercise, making that a priority several times a week can be really, really important for your stress response. Another thing you can do is decrease your caffeine intake. So caffeine stresses your body out. It increases your anxiety. It stresses out your adrenals, which is what secretes the cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Raises your heart rate. It can mimic the effects of anxiety on your body. So caffeine, if you're noticing, multiple cups of coffee a day, lots of espresso and triple shots and all those things, maybe looking at decreasing your caffeine intake. Some simple things that all of us can do are focusing on gratitude, focusing on the things in our life that are good instead of focusing on the stress. Writing that down if we need to. Writing down each and every day we wake up, focusing on 5 to 10 things that we are grateful for in our life, even if it's as simple as I woke up this morning. I had a cup of coffee this morning. Whatever it is that you can find to be grateful for, your kids, your family, air to breathe. Something like that, and to focus on the good instead of the negative. Another tip that's kind of funny that I never thought of, but when I was researching, I found chewing gum decreases stress. Who knew? So chew some gum. So here's how it works. So one study showed that people who chewed gum, they had an increased sense of well-being and less stress. Couple theories behind this. One is that chewing gum actually mimics the brain waves of people who aren't stressed. So and apparently when you're stressed out versus when you're not stressed out, your brain waves actually look different, and chewing gum mimics not stressed out brain waves. So chew gum. It also helps increase blood flow to your brain. I don't chew gum, so I guess I need to go get some gum and start being a gum chewer here. Something that I do love to do when I'm stressed out is warming my hands. So a lot of us have cold hands, right? Or if we're anxious, my hands are probably cold because I'm always talking with them. But getting a cup of tea up by the fire, whatever you have, something simple, but just warming your hands up, putting gloves on if you need to. Microwave your gloves for 30 seconds before you put them on your hands. But being able to warm up your hands actually tricks your body into thinking, oh, you have warm hands, you must not be stressed out or be anxious. Because in anxiety, you get your hands are cold. So that's just another simple little trick. Chew your gum, warm your hands up, and life is good, right? Another tip that's really important for managing your stress is learning to say no. this is one that I still work on, and this is one I think that as women especially, we've been taught to be doers and to not turn people down and be a good girl, right? Help people out. And so learning to say no, taking control over parts of your life that you can, things that you can change, and things that you can avoid, things that you know are causing stress, avoid them if you can. Say no to unnecessary things that are adding to your load. Avoiding procrastination, because procrastination stresses you out. Practicing time management, all of those things. Organizing your life so that it's less chaotic and less stressful. Now, you may look and say, well, you have no idea about my life and how stressful it is, but honestly, it does help. And write it down if you have to. If you can't think, sometimes for me, like I have this to-do list going in my head that it's like, literally seems like 30,000 things long, right? And I write it down and maybe it's six things. And here I'm thinking I have all this to do, and it's because the same 6 things are going over and over and over in my head. So get in a habit. When you're writing down the things you're grateful for, write down your to-do list, the things that are floating around in your head to help out. But learning to say no. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is something that I've been working on for probably a year or two. And I got to the point where recently, it was a few weeks ago, I want to say, I said yes to something that I should have said no to. And I knew I did it, and I caught it. And it made me feel almost a little sick. I was angry about it because it was like, I felt used and it was all about me. It wasn't even about the other person, but it was like, no, I should have. Why do we do that? So learning to say no. Other things that can be really helpful, friendship, making sure you have support systems, people that build you up and not tear you down. Looking at the people in your life, your family. I mean, obviously we can't choose our family, but if they're the people you're going to be spending a lot of time with, try to choose people that are going to help you, that are going to promote less stress, less drama in your life. Cuddling releases oxytocin, which is a feel-good, the love hormone is oxytocin. Decreases our cortisol, decreases our blood pressure, decreases our heart rate. So go cuddle somebody, cuddle a baby, cuddle your dog, whatever it is, but just that physical contact. We're made that way. We are made to be loved that way. Soothing music is always very calming. Deep breathing. How many times a day do we actually deep breathe? If we're not active people, chances are we aren't deep breathing at all during the day. And that actually adds stress on our body. So you can Google it, working on diaphragmatic breathing, actually focusing on where you're inhaling. See, I inhale from my chest. A lot of us do, but focusing on that abdominal, the deep breathing can be really, really helpful. Getting enough sleep is another thing. How many of us are sleep deprived? Huge when it comes to stress. Not only the physical stress in our body from not sleeping, but also our stress response, our emotional response to stress, because we're exhausted. And so our responses are a lot quicker, more snappy. We're not actually thinking about how we're reacting. Okay, so let's get to the oils and supplements here real quick. We're going to start with supplements that can be helpful for stress. One, omega-3s. Omega-3s are super helpful when it comes to our stress response and helping to repair our body from stress and damage that has been done to it. So omega-Gs can be really, really helpful, and actually it helps to decrease anxiety and stress as well. So it's kind of a two-way street. It's going to help with what stress has done to our body, but also help to prevent it in the future. So taking something like omega-Gs. Cortistop. Cortistop is honestly kind of an amazing supplement. I wasn't fully aware of the mechanisms behind why it worked. So I was doing a little bit of research on that, and I'm actually going to post a couple articles. One is from Lindsay Elmore, and then there's a video that was done by Dr. Jim Bob Hagerton that explained cortisol or Cortistop in a little more detail. I couldn't go, I'm not even going to do a whole nother video on it because they explained it so well. So I will post those. But just to briefly sum it up, basically, when we're under stress, cortisol goes up, right? And cortisol is that stress hormone. Now, cortisol actually has some beneficial properties in the body. The problem comes when we're constantly under stress, which, again, we all are. Most of us are constantly under some degree of stress. So what'll happen is, as that stress hormone is up, our adrenals will actually secrete more cortisol as they become fatigued, as they become worn down. Now our cortisol is super high. Cortisol is actually kind of opposite. So when we think of calcium and magnesium, they're opposites. That's what we talk about. If you're going to take magnesium, you can add calcium, or vice versa. Cortisol is the opposite, or works in a balance with DHEA. DHEA. Yeah, I said it right. which is our precursor to our hormones. So your progesterone, all these hormones. So if you're having hormone imbalances, light bulb moment, right? Because like, I'm stressed out, my cortisol goes up, my DHEA will naturally come down when I'm stressed out. Now all my hormones are messed up, so we have stress over here. Now all of a sudden we have PMS and we have this going on. Our thyroid's not working right. We have all these issues because of the imbalances we've created in our body. So DHEA, when we have low DHEA, it suppresses our immune system. We can have skin reactions to essential oils. This was another unbelievable. So if you have skin reactions to oils, when you put them on, you get rashes, you get strange reactions when you put them on your skin, chances are your cortisol is too high and your DHEA is too low. Insulin resistance, swelling, retaining fluid, so swelling of your extremities or waking up with swelling under your eyes, accelerated aging, decreased thyroid function, PMS, depression. As I was looking through this checklist, I'm like, check, check, check. Oh my goodness, no wonder, because I have adrenal fatigue. And so I was like, why haven't I taken Cortistop? So it's on my order, and I actually think I have some here. I can start it right away and then add it to my next order. So Cortistop helps because it contains DHEA, it contains herbs, it contains other things to help improve your balance between the cortisol and the DHEA. Mind blown. I love it. So anyway, I will post the article and I will post the link to Dr. Jim Bob's video so you guys can watch it if you want to learn a little bit more about Cortistop, but that's kind of a summary of why it's beneficial. Another supplement that Young Living does not carry, but which could be beneficial for when you're really stressed out, is ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb, meaning like our oils can be adaptogenic is it's balancing. So if something's too high, it's going to bring it down. If it's too low, it brings it up. So it's trying to bring your body into balance. Incredibly nourishing for your adrenal glands, very helpful for cortisol. It also balances blood sugar, decreases inflammation. It regulates serotonin. That's that well-being, feel-good hormone in our body. And like I said, it nourishes the adrenals. So ashwagandha is one that you can add in. It may be better to take at night. Sometimes people get sleepy on it. Obviously, all of this is not a substitute for medical advice. This is just educational. So ask your doctor first before you add anything in to make sure things aren't interacting with medications or anything that way. But ashwagandha is a great one you can add into tea. I actually take it, I use it's Gaia, I think it is, Gaia. Golden milk. It's a powder that you can add to milk. I just add it to hot water, but it's got turmeric and black pepper, but it has ashwagandha in that. So I take that and drink that at bedtime. I actually add ashwagandha to my like smoothie at lunchtime. You know, you can add it to teas. It's a very tasteless powder. You can just add a little bit. I would start slow and work up with it. But it's something that like my kids have taken, the doctor's given it to them, you know, when they were having, especially my oldest, you know, just having a lot of that fight or flight. So our kids on the spectrum can do really well with it because they pretty much live in fight or flight, so their adrenals are shot. So it can be really, really helpful. So those are supplements that can be helpful when you have this long-term stress response. Okay, so we are going to talk about essential oils, and there are many. So I'm going to go through some of these in a little more detail and then some of them a little bit more quickly. So essential oils that can be helpful to helping our body manage a stress response would be valerian. So valerian straight up or rutavala, lavender, rose, melissa is the bomb for stress response in our body. Now, you may say, well, Melissa, yeah, I'm going to go get it. And you get in your virtual office and you look it up and you go, oh, that's a little bit more than I had budgeted for this month. So it's not one that maybe we would use every day, right? And it's not one that necessarily we can all afford right away. So here's a little tip. Melissa is lemon balm. Lemon balm grows batty. Like I have it in my backyard and I planted it, I think 2 years ago. And this year it was just like lemon balm coming out my ears. You can drink it in a tea. So I just take the leaves, you can dry it or you can use them fresh and then steep it into a tea. Take, my kids sing an opera upstairs. It's so distracting. I'm sorry. You can, I don't know if you guys can hear, but he's like, "La," up there. They're both into this vibrato right now. I'm sorry. Okay, vodka. We were on vodka. So to make a tincture out of lemon balm, so grow it in your backyard, or you should maybe even be able to find it at a farmer's market, or a local farmer could carry it, a CSA. So I take the lemon balm and I just fill a jar up with it and pour some vodka over it. Like I think it's, I'm trying to think the proof, just regular vodka from the store. Let it sit for a couple months, like 8 weeks, and then you strain out the liquid, and now you have a lemon balm tincture. So that can be actually more helpful in the beginning too. If you find Melissa's too strong for you, you could even do the lemon balm tea or the tincture and then work up to Melissa. Or if, again, Melissa's a little pricey, you can do lemon balm. But lemon balm is so soothing for the nervous system. So I take lemon balm tincture every day with my other herbs. And so that could be something that you could try too. Lemon balm, I'm assuming, kind of grows everywhere because we're, like I said, we hit 50 below this winter, and I'm hoping it comes back next year, but it came back, you know, for me, and it flourishes. And it smells wonderful. It does have a lemony scent. So anyway, there you go. Melissa / lemon balm is super helpful for stress response. Sandalwood, bergamot, Roman chamomile, frankincense, ylang ylang. And then the 3 from the orange tree. So you have orange, you have petitgreen, and neroli. Those all come, they're from different, like the leaves or the blossom or the fruit of the orange tree. All of those are incredibly good for stress response in your nervous system. And then geranium. Geranium is a very, very happy oil. So those can all be helpful. As far as blends, I mean, we're thinking like Stress Away, obviously. And what I love about Stress Away is how balancing it is. So again, balancing, a lot of times when we're stressed out, remember we talked about cortisol going up. Cortisol can cause insulin resistance, but it also can cause blood sugar crashes, especially like in the morning, 4 or 5 a.m. If you're waking up in the middle of the night and feeling a little off, or like for me, when my blood sugar's off, like 4 a.m., I wake up and I'm in a dead panic sweat because my blood sugar crashed and my body's saying, wake up, you're dying. So using something like Stress Away, which has ocotea in it, can help balance your blood sugar. So that can be really helpful for the physical part of the emotional part of stress. Tranquil, again, release can be really, really helpful. Again, if you're not releasing that stress from your body, you're just holding on to it, and sometimes we do that unintentionally. Any of your citrus oils are good. Valor is beautiful. Peace and calming. Jasmine, I love. Finding an oil that just makes you happy, and that could be different for every person, but I just gave you quite a list. There's going to be one of those that's going to speak to you in that list, if not several of them. Believe, which I have going right now. I love Believe. That's just wonderful for both grounding, but also uplifting, like, okay, I can do it. I've got this. Believe is beautiful for that. And Higher Unity. If you were fortunate enough to get Higher Unity in the promo, I want to say it was like December maybe, use that, or at least inhale it from the bottle. That has been one that I have found is just such a beautiful blend, so calming and so helpful with stress. Idaho Balsam Fir, which I hope comes back soon. I'm like hoarding my last drops, but that's one of the best oils for helping to decrease cortisol or balancing cortisol in your body. I love Idaho Balsam Fir. In the meantime, you could use clary sage, because clary sage also helps to balance out cortisol in your body. So both of those can be helpful. And then vetiver. They've actually done studies on vetiver, and this was even like not Young Living vetiver. It was other vetiver, comparing it to Valium. The studies have done that. That's not me saying that. The studies showed that in a blind, placebo-controlled, whatever, double-blind placebo study, that it was similar, if not better, without all the side effects. So vetiver could be another go-to. The Feelings Kit is amazing, and we're going to talk about that. I believe it's later this week or next week. We'll talk about all the oils in the Feeling Kit and the protocol of how to use that. But lastly, I want to talk about Trauma Life. So Trauma Life is kind of an underestimated blend, or maybe we don't talk about it as much, but it can be used with stress as well as after stress. So if you use it, just even daily stress, you guys, it doesn't, a lot of times we think Trauma Life, it has to be a trauma, something traumatic happened. Life is traumatic. I'm sorry, it just is. Like, there's rarely a day you get through and you're not like, oh man, yep, got through that day, whew, another one, check. One day at a time. That's our slogan, right? Just one day at a time, get through this day. Use Trauma Life because it can help you manage that stress response. What'll happen is we store even our daily stresses in our DNA. We store it in our body, we store it in our organs, and we're affected by this. Over time, this causes illness. They've shown that. They know our emotions and our stress cause physical illness. So using Trauma Life so that our body doesn't store these emotions, using Trauma Life to help release those buried emotions and buried trauma, which can be adding to our stress or to our illness, to our disease, or to our pains, our aches and pains. I mean, you have the book, if you have the book, Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. That's a wonderful book to really show you how you have a pain in your lower back. This is the emotion that's connected with that, to show really how stress and how our emotions affect our physical health. So something that you can do with Trauma Life, you can apply it topically, but you also could just diffuse it, because everybody in your family is going to need it, right? So diffuse it. If especially maybe your work environment is a little chaotic and a little stressful, diffuse it where you work. If your home life is a little chaotic and a little stressful, diffuse it at home, just for the benefit of everyone, but for you too, to help protect you. White Angelica is another huge protector, just applying it to your shoulders, protecting from the negative energy, not soaking that up. Because again, that's part of saying no, right? We don't say no either to other people's energy. We're just soaking up all the negative energy around us. And then we get, at the end of the day, we've been on social media and we're just soaking it all up, or we've been out and at work and we're soaking up that negative energy. So putting White Angelica on in the morning and putting Trauma Life on at night, maybe that's a good protocol if you have a lot of stress in your life. You can also add, while you're diffusing the Trauma Life, you can add peace and calming to it. You can add joy or into the future. Those will all help magnify the effects of the Trauma Life. So we've covered a ton of tips. This will be saved in the group so that you can come back and reference it from time to time. You might need a refresher at times because we get away from it, right? We have this resolve like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do better, and then we get away from it. So coming back and reviewing it, and different oils that we can use, different techniques, things so stress doesn't have to affect us physically. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, like, number one, you don't know my situation, or number two, I try and it's just really, really hard for me to not absorb the stress or to absorb the negativity around me. So this is something I admit, like I said earlier, this is something, it's not going to happen overnight. So implement one or two things. Try one or two of the oils. Maybe add Cortistop to your next order. But work on heading to this place where we don't have to live in stress and have it affect us physically. So I'm going to go through the questions real quick. Let me see. I don't know if I have all the comments. I'm looking here. Okay, so a gum without xylitol. There is a brand. I'm trying to think. We don't chew gum. I got it when we were going to go on an airplane, so I got it for the kids, and I'm trying to think. It might have had xylitol. I don't chew gum. So I'm wondering, even there has to be a way you can make a homemade gum too without all the stuff. But yeah, I try not to do the xylitol either. It's rough on the gut. Saying no, yeah, saying no is hard. We're kind of programmed to not do it. Got a Melissa plant. Oh, I'm glad that you have it, and I like that you brought it in, Vicki. That's cool that you got it from the farm too. That's even better. Mine I just got at the health food store. Release. And release is a good one too. At night is when we detox, and it's when our liver detoxes, and we actually store anger and a lot of emotions in our liver. So applying release over our liver can actually help with that, and doing that at bedtime. So that's usually when we try to apply it. I love release too. Like joy, I had a hard time with joy, and I know there's issues behind why I had a hard time with joy, which I need it. So I would use it in the happy protocol, and that worked really, really well. But release was like, oh, it made me so happy. I loved release. Higher Unity is gorgeous. I think it's my all-time favorite oil blend. Oh, thank you. The earrings. My sister makes these. She just had a baby, so she's a little out of commission right now, but I always wear, she's like, you should just be her public relations, because I wear her earrings all the time. I love her earrings. The essential oils are speaking to you. Yeah. I bought all the emotional oils and I never use them. Like, that's my problem. You know, I get them and then I'm like, oh, they're pretty. And then I don't think, but like Trauma Life, for instance, when that came back, I'm like, oh, it's back in stock. I better get some. So I have a few bottles and I've never used it with me. I was using it with our pet, with the kids. I was diffusing it in their room at night, but yeah. How about Angelica oil? So Angelica, yes. So Angelica also is not quite like white Angelica, but it's also kind of a protecting oil like that. Angelica, I honestly haven't done a ton with because it is the only oil, like we all know about my thing with ylang ylang, and I was a little repulsed by ylang ylang. It's just very perfumey, very powerful, and I've been working over the 4 years on ylang ylang. Angelica, I first smelled at the farm. It might have been at Silver Retreat, which is interesting because that's when I first got sick. But when I first smelled it, I couldn't smell it at all. Like, and sometimes that'll happen when you have an emotional block in your body. It will actually cut off scent, and I couldn't smell it. I tried it on like the little papers that they had a sampling with. I was like trying to stick it up my nose. I put it on and I'm trying to inhale it. I could not smell it. And so I bought it because I'm like, I probably need that. There's something in Angelica I need. And when I got it home, again, couldn't smell it, but I kept trying it. And all of a sudden one day I smelled it and it was horrible. And people love Angelica. And so there's something with the Angelica oil that I need physically like that, but it's like really, like I can't, I'm like, why do they bottle this? It's horrible. And then other people smell it and they tell me something entirely different. So Angelica could be another one that you could use. For the protection, I prefer the white Angelica and also the scent. I like the scent of white Angelica better. But Angelica oil could also be used. Okay. All right, that's all the comments I see there. So I will, like I said, I'm going to save this in our group here so you can refer back to it later. But I hope this helped. And if you're watching the replay, feel free. If you have other questions, ask them below and I will come back. And thank you to everybody who tuned in live here today.